Welcome to this week's episode of Talk of the Town. My name's Philip Swicegood, and I am back with my good friend and co-host, Dr. Kenneth Harper from Vein Specialist of the South, and we are thrilled to bring this episode to you today because we think this one's really special. Now, if you have questions about your veins, and if you just want to get some clarity and some answers, please give Dr. Harper and my friends at Vein Specialist of the South a call today and get the answers that you deserve. We also want to thank our presenting sponsor this week, which is Piedmont Macon. Piedmont provides comprehensive quality healthcare for all of your medical needs. Thanks so much to Piedmont and the amazing people there for all the work that they do, for investing in Central Georgia and making a show like this possible. Now, if it's Saturday morning, you've waken up way too early, you've poured that first cup of coffee, turned on 13 WMAZ as you should, and you're wondering, what in the world is Talk of the Town? What is this show on my television? Here's what you can expect week in and week out. A conversation between me, Dr. Harper, and someone in the community who has a really special purpose and story that we think you should know about. And we hope you'll tune in every week because we have amazing guests week in and week out. But this week is actually extra special because we are here with my good friend Seth Clark, who's not only a county commissioner, that's kind of what he's famous for, but here's why you should know and here's why he's here today. Seth is also the director of the Ocmulgee National Park and Preserve Initiative, and we are here to learn more about this amazing organization and some big news for Central Georgia that we hope is right around the corner. Seth, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's good to see y'all.
Seth, we've been doing the show for 5 years now, and I think the first week that we had this show, your name was on our list to be interviewed and to talk about this stuff. So we're so pumped that we're finally making this happen.
Well, the feeling's mutual. Thank y'all for having me.
Fantastic. All right, so you are the director now of the Ocmulgee National Park and Preserve Initiative. Talk to me about what that is and why it's so important to you.
So the Ocmulgee National Park and Preserve Initiative is it's a grassroots organization. It's an advocacy nonprofit of Middle Georgia citizens and Muskogee Creek citizens that are advocating to create Georgia's first national park and preserve right here in Middle Georgia. It's been around for almost 20 years. It's been a volunteer-based organization until recently. About the last 5 years, we've grown exponentially. We are the only conservation organization in the state of Georgia that's tribally and non-tribally staffed. We have tribal citizens from the Muskogee Creek Nation on our board and on staff, and non-tribal Middle Georgia citizens as well. But our advocacy, we do two things. We work with Congress and with community stakeholders to pass legislation to create this anticipated national park, Georgia's first national park. We also work with willing sellers inside the Ocmulgee corridor to put their land into conservation if it's inside of a public boundary and to protect it for generations to come. And also, especially if it needs to be preserved for hunting and fishing in the future. So that's what we do.
So I know we're going to be talking about this national park, and before we began, you and I were actually just talking about how in an age that is so politically divided, where you have more political polarization, I think, now than arguably ever before, everyone in Georgia is for this. I mean, it's got to be the one thing, aside from the color of the sky, that I think everybody agrees on. From Marjorie Taylor Greene on the right to John Ossoff on the left, it seems like everybody wants this. Can you talk a little bit about that, about how unique this is to have a movement that is so uniting?
Sure. I think it's a testament to who we are as Central Georgians. I mean, this is how, I think if you look at any municipality or any civic project that's whether it's Macon Bibb based or Houston County based or Monroe County based, just in Central Georgia, it doesn't fall across political lines like you see in Washington or you see in Atlanta. And so this is what you are seeing in the support of this, in the political support of this, is a response in Washington to who we are. It's a reflection, it's a mirror. And I think Middle Georgians should be really, really proud of that. And I think we should be really grateful for people like Congressman Austin Scott putting down party politics to work with people like Congressman Sanford Bishop, who are the two champions of this in the House of Representatives. That's great, but it's a reflection of who we are. And they're responding to us, and Middle Georgia should be really proud of the buy-in that groups, everyone from environmental groups, that makes sense. This is a conservation organization, but it doesn't make sense that they're make sense until you get into the meat of this, that they would be joining hand in hand with the Georgia Chamber of Commerce and the Georgia Mining Association and the Macon Bibb Industrial Authority. These people understand, these groups all understand that the stewardship of our home and the stewardship of these sites that are really important to our identity is not just good for who we are, but it's good for the economy too. And I think that's why we've been able to overcome a lot of the normal political divide that slows down projects like this.
Seth, when you think about the Ocmulgee mounds, we were talking before that we started the show about estimated dates. Talk a little bit about that and the Ocmulgee heritage starting here, but then fast forward to the early 1930s and what happened from the Chamber of Commerce, really.
Sure.
So could you share a little bit of that with our crowd? Because these are things that I've lived here since 1979, and these things I learned from you today, okay?
Yeah, it's really neat history. And it's a testament, again, to just the uniqueness of this community. But this is where we are, what we call home. There are signs that there has been continuous human habitation here for over 17,000 years. It's some of the longest continuous human habitation in the continental United States of America. 16,800 years of that this place was stewarded, the place we call home was stewarded by the ancestors of the Macon Creek people. They're the fourth largest federally recognized tribe in the country. Their reservation is in northeast Oklahoma. They have 100,000 citizens, and they were removed from this land forcibly in the 1820s through what we all grew up learning about in the Trail of Tears. So just 200 years of that time is us. And so this organization, has the incredible opportunity to partner with the Macon Creek Nation to make sure that their interests and their words and their history are breathed into not just the park itself, but into the community that they call their homeland. That's been a very recent development that I'm very proud of with this organization. But we are just part of a network and a series of organizations that's been working for a century, so like you mentioned, since the early 1930s to go after this elusive national park designation. The first calls to create a national park here in Middle Georgia came in the 1930s from the Macon Chamber of Commerce. Actually, they purchased roughly about 600 acres around these mound sites that they knew were important, but they just didn't know how important. And this was obviously after removal, so the tribal citizens weren't involved in the purchase or really weren't involved in the interpretation of the sites. But they knew that something was special here. A congressman at the time, Carl Vinson, answered their call, drafted a piece of legislation that went before the House Natural Resources Committee, and they said, "This is a great idea, but it's too small." So he petitioned his friend Franklin Roosevelt, who had spent a lot of time in Macon, not just because he was being treated for polio in Warm Springs, but he was also a columnist for the Macon Telegraph, so he was very aware of this site, and he used the powers that were vested in the presidency through the Antiquities Act to create Ocmulgee National Monument out of that site. That started what would end up being, still to this day, the largest archaeological dig in American history. It was one of the largest jobs programs through the New Deal and through the WPA. And when so many Middle Georgians lost their jobs, they were able to go out during the Great Depression, they were able to go be a part of this archaeological dig. And that was abruptly halted when we entered into World War II. And so the national monument stayed a national monument through the duration of the 20th century. And throughout that time, there were other amazing organizations and stewards, the Ocmulgee Valley Association, the Ocmulgee Mounds Association, which is still the Friends organization of the park today. All work to support the park unit, but also to expand the public lands boundaries in Middle Georgia, resulting in the creation of state-run wildlife managed areas and a wildlife refuge, Bonswamp National Wildlife Refuge. It's managed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. So throughout the 20th century, we have this incredibly rich tradition of conservation and protecting the Ocmulgee, not just the cultural assets, but the ecological assets for hunting and fishing access. And that's what our organization has really, is just the modern iteration of that expansion. And then finally, in 2019, Senator Isaacson was successful in working with Congressman Scott and Congressman Bishop in redesignating the Ocmulgee National Monument into the Ocmulgee Mounds National Historical Park and charging the National Park Service and studying whether this should be a full-fledged national park on par with the Grand Canyon and Yosemite and the 63 national parks. At the time it was 62. And the national parks Service conducted that study over the course of the next 3 or 4 years, and they found that we do diversify their portfolio in a way that's necessary. That the history and the uniqueness of our history and the uniqueness of this ecology lend itself to our necessary landscapes and telling the story of our American identity, because that's ultimately what the national park system does, right? They protect landscapes that tell the story of who we are as Americans. They found that this most certainly meets that, but that Congress, should they want to move forward, should scale it down to make sure that this is feasible. And that's exactly what the Georgia delegation has done, and exactly what they are considering right now in Congress.
Did you know that Franklin Roosevelt was a columnist for the Macon Telegraph?
I did not.
I mean, this is why I hang out with smart people like Seth, you know? I mean,
so, hey, if you're a reader and knew that, or a viewer, let us know, okay?
There you go. There you go.
Right.
So there's 63 national parks right now. This would help to expand the overall portfolio that is in the national parks. Talk to me, though, about the impact on the local economy. Are there projections out there about the economic impact, the number of people that would come? Because, I see online all the time that there's people that will literally go to all 63. They make a trip out of it. It takes a couple years typically, but they will inevitably do something like that. Talk to me about the economic impact.
It's definitely quantifiable, but it's hard to exaggerate because it is huge and a very big potential boon for Middle Georgia. Our organization worked with the Knight Foundation and the National Park Conservation Association to conduct economic studies a number of years back. And we found that the national park designation, if it happened tomorrow, would start a 15-year clock of growth. At the end of that 15-year period, we could see as much as $230 million a year of economic activity on top of what we have now. It could be the creation of 3,100 private sector jobs and the realization of $34 million of new tax revenue for the municipalities. And just for context, the most recent budget that Macon-Bibb County passed was just over $200 million. We're able to do that not on the backs of Macon-Bibb taxpayers because of the way that our tax portfolio is set up. We have something called the OLOS that Macon-Bibb voters were very smart in voting in a number of years back. That basically is a sales tax that for penny for penny rolls back your property taxes. So as people come here and use our services, the estimated 1 million extra visitors that could come a year after that 15-year period of growth and spending money in Macon-Bibb County, every dime they spend rolls our property taxes back. And so this is not just a boon for our local economy. It's not just extra tax money so people like me can fund their pet projects at county commission. This is legitimately how we continue to take care of ourselves economically and foster responsible stewardship and a responsible tax portfolio that offers relief to taxpayers in Macon-Bibb County. So it really is a game changer for the local economy, and I think that's why you see so many organizations really coming together. That's why you see this as one of the top priorities of the Georgia Chamber of Commerce, because this is not just good for Macon, it's really good for the state of Georgia.
Seth, we have more questions about what this national park might actually look like, but first we have to take a quick break to hear a word from our sponsor.
I work in inventory management, requiring a lot of walking and standing on concrete. After many years, my legs were bulging and swollen and embarrassing, and I hated to wear shorts or even a bathing suit. Plus, I'm a mom. I'm very active and love shopping and outdoor activities. My legs got worse over the years, and I was having trouble sleeping because my legs ached and they were restless. Hearing great things about Vein Specialists of the South, I called and made an appointment, plus it was covered on my insurance. An ultrasound showed my legs were even worse than I thought. The staff were very caring and professional, and I loved the way the doctor talked to me during my procedure, explaining everything. This made me feel completely comfortable the entire time. And the best part, there was little downtime and I could feel a difference in my legs immediately. If you're having vein issues and ready to improve the quality of your life, I highly recommend calling Vein Specialists of the South today.
Piedmont Macon is proud to be your partner in healthcare, in business and in the community. From our 2 convenient hospitals and ERs, our cardiac program, women's services, and urgent care centers, we provide Middle Georgians with comprehensive care close to home. Our goal is to empower you through great care that's simplified, unified, and easier than ever to access. Our mission is to make a positive difference in every life we touch. We want to be part of your family and your life and to make our community a better place to live.
At Raphael Tire Master, we're more than a tire dealer. We're your complete auto service center. So it doesn't matter if it's a brake job, alignment, or radiator service, we stand behind our work. Plus, we offer a multi-point vehicle inspection that's absolutely free. We know it's not just about getting from one location to the next. It's about driving with confidence. And at Raphael Tire Master, we're here to help. Visit one of our 6 Raphael Tire Master locations and log on to raphaeltire.com for more money-saving coupons.
We've got you. It's a pledge to make sure you're always taken care of. A pledge that Flint Energies honors each and every day. When it comes to keeping things running smoothly or getting them back on track when they're not, we've got you. Always. Flint Energies is a Touchstone Energy Cooperative, your source for power and information.
Hey y'all, Lane Southern Orchard's sweet and juicy peaches are now in season. Pick some up at our roadside market in Fort Valley and shop for other fresh seasonal produce. Enjoy our all-you-can-eat salad bar from 11 until 4 at the Peachtree Cafe. Make sure to save room for one of our delicious homemade baked goods. Then let the kids play on our farm-themed playground. Lane Southern Orchard's I-75 exit 142. We hope to see y'all soon.
This is the Medical Minute, where we ask Dr. Harper your vein-related questions. Dr. Harper, people are awfully busy these days. Is there a way for people to get their veins virtually checked?
Well, yes, there's. Several years ago, I was thinking about that fact, and when people became more familiar with online surveys and that kind of thing, I was able to create virtualvein.com. And with that process, you can go to virtualvein.com. There are about 5 or 6 simple questions you would answer about yourself. Submit a photograph if you had a place on your leg or otherwise that you were concerned about, and then you just click send. And one of our providers keeps an eye on that on the inbox, and they would respond back and may set up a virtual time that for video conferencing to determine if indeed you probably have vein disease, or and if it would be a good idea to come in to let us check you. The other thing we have is Vein Specialists of the South, and that is a great resource. It's our website. It has commonly asked questions. It has blog material about a lot of important things about vein disease. So yes, there's gateways to enter the practice, and that's 2 of the ones that people sometimes choose.
Fantastic. So veinspecialistofthesouth.com and virtualvein.com. We hope that you will check those out today.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town, and we're here with Seth Clark, and he's telling us all about Ocmulgee mounds and the future there. But we took a little poll of our crew here, and about half the people on the crew have never been to the mounds. Mm-hmm. And they're going to go next week, I think. Aren't you going to go next week? But tell the folks in the community what you might expect.
Sure.
If the first time there, or if your 20th time there.
Well, it's incredibly special. I mean, you feel that you are in a place that is it feels sacred. That's how it feels to me, at least. And it feels ancient, and not just because of it's vibes or anything. It really is the landscape that you see. As soon as you get out, you see and you start walking. The trails are very short that connect these mound sites, but as you walk down and you cross over a creek and you start coming up, you'll see the first mound site. It's called the Earth Lodge. It is where the tribal council would have met. And when you walk in, the floor is original, over 1,000 years old, and you'll see an eagle effigy. You'll see where the chief and the second chief and the spiritual leader would have sat, and where tribal council members would have sat around there in a fire pit right in the middle.
Was that part of the archaeological dig, the
was.
largest one in the United States?
It was. It was found. It was, and the recreation of the mound was part of that process as well. To the right of it, you'll see mounds that were used to store their agricultural mounds. They were used to store harvest. And then as you cross in 1848, the railroad ran through there and bisected a lot of these mounds. It bisected one of the largest burial mounds in the state of Georgia, which is that's still there today. But as you walk through the valley, there you walk by where the trading post was. This was where where the British and the Spanish came together and with the indigenous citizens that were here to trade, and the indigenous citizens could. This is where they filed their reports of that they were either being price gouged or reports of violence. And then, really just dominating the landscape in the background is what the park calls the Great Temple Mounds and the Lesser Temple Mounds. And this is where the chief and the second chief and the spiritual leaders and the leaders of the community would have lived. This was one of the largest indigenous civilizations and areas in the American South. So,
and can you estimate the population really quick?
I don't know. I
Okay.
don't know. It's thousands.
Wow.
But as you're walking through where the park footprint is now, you would have been walking through this community, through thatching, not huts, but thatching houses that would have been thatched with river cane that pulled out of the river basin. And on top of that would have been on top of those mounds that are 9 stories high. They are from the base of when they started, they're all man-made. It's people taking baskets of dirt one at a time and compacting them into a trapezoidal figure. They would have been much bigger than you see now because, just 1,000 years is a long time to wear down. They packed them up 9 stories high. You can walk to the top of those mounds and you can see downtown Macon. It's beautiful. Next to the mounds, you see a clay pond where there's alligators and beautiful egrets and a lot of wildlife. You will very much, most likely, see whitetail deer if you're there in the morning or in the evening. And you can take the trails there's a trail that winds all the way down to the Ocmulgee River. And you can also take a trail once you go down there and get on the Ocmulgee Heritage Trail and take a bike straight into downtown.
But it's hard to overstate just how big that is. I mean, we're just sitting here in downtown Macon, and the Fickling building is nearby, and I believe that's 14 stories.
Mm-hmm.
This is 9 stories that they made by hand.
That's right.
Without any heavy equipment, obviously.
Mm-hmm. That's right. It's a spectacle. I think I can speak for me. I just most certainly didn't appreciate the power of these sites because it was where we went on our second grade field trips. We really took them for granted. And it wasn't until working here and really working with the tribe and understanding the deep cultural importance. I mean, this is a site where they truly believe that God gave man fire, that they believe when you look at written oral histories of the Trail of Tears, they say that they picked up their fires and they took them to Oklahoma. And I think that an initial read, you could think that this is just rhetorical flourish, that these cultures survive in us, and which is beautiful in and of itself. But they actually mean those coals, that they picked them up and they took them through the coldest winter on record in Mississippi into Oklahoma, and some of those fires still burn today because this was such an important site. And I think that's when you understand the context of the history of where we are and the importance of it as a foundational site of identity to the Muskogee Creek Nation. It gives this landscape a completely different lens.
So there's several big events that happen every year.
Mm-hmm.
You want to share a little bit about those and what your favorite of those? If you
Sure,
have one?
I love in September we have the Indigenous Celebration, and hundreds of citizens from the Muskogee Creek Nation come over from Oklahoma. Chief Hill, he's the current principal chief of the Muskogee Creek Nation. Chief David Hill, Second Chief Del Beaver, they both usually come, and a lot of representatives from their tribal council come. But they have traditional stomp dances, so you can see what their ceremonies look like traditionally, but also today. They talk about their traditions, and we can learn a lot from them, and also what the site means. But that's a really special. That's a really, really, really special event. I really like the candlelight tours during the Cherry Blossom Festival as well. I think seeing the Ocmulgee Mounds Association, who are wonderful stewards of that property, they put those together, and you get to see the mounds at night, which is rare. But those are two of my favorite events. But I would not miss the Indigenous Celebration. It's usually the third week, I think, of September, and it's just really, and go out there and make a friend.
Enter, right?
Sorry?
There's no fee to enter.
There's no fee.
It's absolutely free.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
and kids will really love that, and
They do.
all ages, kids of all ages.
Mhm.
You like it.
Would love it. Absolutely. Seth, I've got to ask you this, okay? This is one of the, I'd be lying if I said this wasn't one of the main reasons I wanted to get you on the show, ASAP, okay? You've been posting some amazing fish pictures on Facebook, and I need you to give us a fishing report.
I can't tell you where. I'm not going to spot burn on top of the town. But I will tell you that the landscapes, what brought me to this project is we weren't wealthy enough growing up to have a hunting lease and a fishing lease. We fished public land, and we fished this public land. And it is one of the most, the Ocmulgee corridor is one of the most underutilized fisheries in the state of Georgia. The Ocmulgee is home to, it's shoal bass, which are really endemic to 3 rivers in the world, exist right here in Middle Georgia. And protecting this landscape as a transitionary landscape on the fall line and a migratory that protecting that migratory path is really important to them. We have sea-run striped bass. This is one of the longest undammed stems going all the way up to Juliet, Georgia. That from the ocean, striped bass come all the way up. So they come right through this landscape that we're trying to protect. You can, if you go down into the sloughs in the swamp, there's a beautiful bowfin that are they're some of the closest relatives to dinosaurs that exists in those sloughs. You need to take some gloves and take some wire line if you want to fish those. But there's beautiful. It's a beautiful largemouth habitat as well. But it's a American shad run up this river. And it's also species-wise, it's home to a threatened population of black bear. It's home to 2 endangered species of fauna. I mean, this is a very special ecosystem that is worthy of protection, in my opinion.
Fantastic. As we're moving to wrap up, Seth, where can people go to learn more about this effort and just kind of walk us through what happens next?
Sure. Please visit ocmulgeepark.org. On our website, you can also find a way to participate. We are currently conducting a regional strategic plan that we need public input on. So you can go to ocmulgeepark.org and tell us what you think this community needs to do to be ready to host the next national park in the United States. But this explains more about what this project's doing, how you can get involved outside of the strategic plan, and also how you can reach out and let your voice be heard in Washington to get this very good idea done as soon as they can.
Wonderful. Seth, thanks so much for joining us. We really appreciate it, and we're excited to see what happens next. And stay tuned for where me and Dr. Harper might show up next, because you never know where it might be.